Yo, what's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler, aka Mind of a Nerd. I'm joined by my co-host AJ Reacts to. Welcome back to the official Nerd Talk channel. We are here today for another episode of Originals versus Remakes, kicking off the summer. And today we are giving you an episode dedicated to Piranha, which is the one that I picked for the summer because I was looking at the list and I was like, this kind of fits the summer theme, of which I was mainly looking at the remake, but I was still like, what, that could be a fun one. I haven't seen any of these. I was like, that could be a fun one. And you guys know those are the OVRs that I like doing. So without further ado, let's get into the original Piranha. So the original Piranha it was released in 1978 and directed by the great Joe Dante, who gave us classics in the horror genre such as Gremlins, which I love personally, and The Howling, which has great practical effects but is a snooze, and tells the story of these two scientists releasing piranhas into the wild of a summer camp, kind of. And we have our movie. So I did not know that this was a original film until about a couple years ago because I always knew the remake existed. Like I knew that and its sequel always existed. But I never knew that the original was an original. So I
You
was
thought the
like that
remake was the original.
yeah, I was like that kind of piques my interest. It's like what was the original like in the 70s? Like what did they do with that?
Hmm.
And the answer was a fun one, I guess, if you'll say. I enjoyed the first original Piranha for what it was. I think its biggest issue is that it was simply made too early, which is a shame. I feel like that's the worst thing when you watch a movie and you're like, I see the potential. You just you did not have the proper resources, and it's a shame because I feel like if Joe Dante had more money and more technology, this could have honestly been like a summer horror classic, to be honest. Like you could have done so much more with the kills, you could have shown the fish more, you know but I still think the movie is competent. The scare scenes, the piranha scenes are a lot of fun. This is not going to sound right at all, but the fact that
I
kids
already know
are
what you're
in
gonna say.
danger in this
Yo,
movie is a plus because nine
they
out
went
of ten
there,
times kids are not in danger. I think really there's only two movies that kids are in danger. One of them is this, and the other one is probably Halloween Kills. Poltergeist might be a third one, but no
and
kids
it.
die in that movie. Yeah, it um but seeing kids being torn apart, I was like, holy shit, like they're going for it. And it took me by surprise, and it's something I commend them about. It's not something that you see every day, and it's definitely a risk that I think paid off. It added those stakes. It's like, nah, there nobody's safe, everybody's on the chopping block. Our characters, uh, I guess they're there to be there. I didn't care about any of them. The pacing is hit or miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. The movie is only 90 minutes, but I think when it commits to what it's supposed to commit to, which is something you're gonna hear me say later, I think it works. I just don't think the movie lived up to its full potential because of the restrictions of it being in the 70s, which is unfortunate. But again, I think if Joe Dante just had more money, he would have made a banger. And what happened when he had more money, he made Gremlins, and Gremlins is a banger. So that's just my 2 cents about it. AJ, what are your thoughts on the original Piranha?
So I was kind of in a similar boat, as you, no pun intended. Um, and yeah, so I just realized that this was a original film like a few years ago. And we were gonna do this OVR, and I had already seen the remake, and I was like, I don't really feel like revisiting this, but it could be interesting seeing the original and comparing. So I went back and watched the original for the first time, and I actually really dug it. Like, I threw this movie on at like 1 a.m. I said, "The heck with it. Let's see what this is all about." And there's a lot of like references to like Jaws and things like that. Those types of movies, but overall, I found this movie pretty fun. I think the pacing could have used a little work, because sometimes they're hitting the gas, like the piranhas are getting people, and we're invested, and then it kind of slows down, gets some into some character moments that we don't really care about the characters here. Like, there's nothing really here that makes us gravitate to the characters. So and not to get into too much comparing, but like the remake kind of does that a little bit better, which is kind of surprising. Yeah, so overall, this movie is a fun time. The whole thing about the fish and not being able to see them, and like the quick cuts away from them, I kind of like that. I kind of like that we didn't get to see full on the fish, because it takes something away from it a little bit to me when you get to see the full on.
I
Now,
liked it like when they first show up. I'm fine with that.
mhm,
But like the
mhm,
whole
yeah,
most of the movie is that, and I do think it's
yeah.
because of budget.
and
You
and
know.
and and you could feel that. I think you could feel that towards the beginning of the movie, it was a lot of like cutaway, a lot of it. And then you would see like some silhouettes of fish, you know, swimming by and things like that. But then, like, once you get towards the end, they do show it a little bit more, but it's still like a lot of cutaways and fast editing and cuts and stuff like that. Personally, I think that worked for me personally, but I can see with a bigger budget being able to do more. But I commend the filmmaking here with practical effects and animatronics. We say it all the time. Practical effects is the way to go with horror, action. With pretty much anything. So, but overall, I dug it. I liked it.
All right, all right. Moving on to the remake titled Piranha. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait. Piranha 3D. So Piranha 3D is directed by Alexander Aha. I pronounce his name horribly. He directed The Hills Have Eyes remake, which I heard is pretty good. He did Crawl. He did
Oh,
that,
he did Crawl as well.
and
Hmm.
he's done a couple movies here and there. He's produced some remakes as well, and tells the story of uh
I'm gonna
spring
let you have this.
tells the tells the story of piranhas. Oh, okay. There is an actual story. A earthquake breaks out in the middle of this town, and these piranhas come through this hole in the earth, and they wreak havoc on a spring break vacation area and some other
Hmm.
folks that are in the area.
Hmm.
So, so I was kind of excited to watch this because, like, I've heard things about it, and I was just like, all right, it's a 2010 remake. We already talked about the My Bloody Valentine 3D remake and how horrible that was. It can't
but
get
we
worse,
but
right?
we also talked about Black Christmas. So,
Uh, it's
you
not a
know,
3D remake, bro.
it's not 3D remake. You're right, but
The 3D remake pedestal is like a whole nother level of bad. It's not even
yeah.
funny. I'm so glad that the Friday the 13th remake was not a 3D remake. Ugh. Anyway, watching this movie, I think I watched this movie at like 2 o'clock in the morning. I've never seen a movie to where for every one thing I liked, there's two or three things that I disliked. And I've never seen my score balance out so perfect right bang in the middle. So where I'm like, I hate this movie, but I like it at the same time. Listen, in all actuality, I think this movie is enjoyable garbage. That is the phrase I will coin with this film. Is this movie good filmmaking? No, at all, none. You know, in like all seriousness, I think when the movie commits to what it's supposed to be, which is piranhas eating people alive, I think it works and I think it's fun. Is the CGI good? Absolutely not. It is some of the worst CGI you will ever see in your life. None of the CGI in this movie is good. And again, it goes back to the whole aspect of 3D horror movies. I'm so glad they died 1,000 deaths because any more of this, I I would have lost my mind. Again, Friday the 13th Part 3 is not great. But the 3D, they went practical with the 3D stuff. And that's why it kind of has a charm to it, to me anyway. It's insanely goofy, but at least I can be like, wow, that thing is really coming at the screen. When CGI is coming at the screen, I'm just that's a special effect. Anybody could do that. Obviously you're not gonna get real fish to come at the screen, so maybe don't make it a 3D horror movie. Anywho, the actual kills and scare scenes I think are entertaining. There's a rave sequence that goes for like 15 minutes in this movie that I thought was honestly amazing in both a good and a bad way because again, the effects are really bad, but like they go for it. Like there's this part where these people are like hanging on the top of the like a sound stage or something, and I'm like, they're not gonna do what I think they're gonna do, right? They go for it, and the thing comes plunging into the water. I said, "Oh, they're all cooked." That's it, bro. They got demolished, and I loved it. The practical effects when they're there are good. There's like a shot of in the beginning of the movie, the shot of this dude's hand coming out of the water and it's all chewed up like a dog toy. I was like, that looks great. There's a shot, you know, later on where someone gets obliterated, and I was like, but you did the practical thing there. What are you
Mhm.
what are you doing? Um Characters awful, acting awful, writing non-existent, pacing okay. But I enjoy this movie. This is the epitome of so bad it's good. Like it is. You know, the good stuff in this movie is good, but the bad stuff is kind of unbearable at points, and it's one of those you have to suffer to get what you want. But even the stuff that you get what you want, it's not that redeemable for me personally. Adrian, what are your thoughts on the Piranha remake?
So the Piranha remake, I watched it back in 2010 when it came out, and I didn't really like it then, and I don't really like it now. But the with this rewatch, I could kind of see some things that I admire more. So I'm going to start with my positives for this movie. As far as the, like you said, the practical effects, I really enjoyed the practical effects. Anytime they appeared, where it was awesome. There's this scene where this girl gets her hair caught in a boat propeller that it's unbelievable. And it's like some of the gnarliest stuff you've ever seen. So like whenever they go practical, I'm down with it. Um as far as the I feel like this movie is shot fine. I didn't have much problems with the way it was shot.
When there's not
Um
CGI on the screen.
oh yeah, not including the special effects. But like the colors pop, like it's not like hazy or anything. Like it could easily have gotten like really weird with the lighting and stuff since it was all like outside bright and things like that. So it did its job there. The acting is not good, but I do feel like the characters are more established here. than in the original. Yeah, for better or for worse. Um, we got Jerry O'Connell going crazy, acting like just going crazy in this movie.
He knew exactly what movie he was in.
Oh, the pacing. I feel like the pacing was actually good in this movie. I'm not gonna say that it was bad. Now, what did I enjoy what I was watching? No. Not in the first half of this movie. The first half of this movie is just an excuse to show boobs and cheeks in 3D. That's the only reason that the first half of this movie exists. Once you get into the end, like the second half of the movie, it starts getting more interesting. And that's where my score slightly goes up, very slightly. But yeah, so those are like my positives for this movie. The negatives, yeah, the acting is just from most of the characters, it's just not good.
There's two
This,
people in the movie that I think are okay: Ving Rhames and Adam Scott.
yeah, and I feel like Elizabeth Shue is, mm,
She's okay.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. Our main character, nah, nah, bro. What's his name? Stephen R. McQueen, from Vampire Diaries. Man, I love
Go
you in
back to the
Vampire
CW.
Diaries. I love you in Vampire Diaries, but yikes, man, this one was rough for you. And just the beginning of this movie, it just like really brought my score all the way down. Now, um, when we talk about CGI, when we talk about CGI in this movie, it is so appalling. It is so abysmal and outrageous that it's just like I can't believe this actually got put to film. This actually got put in a theater, and people actually went and watched it. Um, but yeah, so that's like my overall thoughts on Piranha 3D. It has some admirable aspects, but overall, I just wasn't feeling it.
All right. Moving on to the similarities between the two, and right off the bat, the first one is that the entity creature is the same. It's pretty much like same. Like they don't introduce different forms of the piranhas or anything.
Well,
Um,
yeah,
for the most part,
for the most part.
they killed the humans pretty much the same way. They like get into like pools, if you will, and they tear them apart. You know, um, that's pretty much it because I feel like these two movies, other than like the monsters, they're pretty much different movies entirely. You know, so let's move on to the differences. And right off the bat, the central stories between these two movies are totally different. So you in the original you have, like I said, our characters, they accidentally release these piranhas into the wild and they end up at a summer camp. In the remake, it's essentially this earthquake happens and these fish come up and they swim across and they find this spring break rave going on and they start attacking people, and our characters are different because we follow mostly scientists and kids in the original, and then in the remake we have cops and spring breakers and porno directors.
There it is.
God. um the I feel like the piranhas themselves were a little bit different because in the original they sound like birds when they attack. They're like
They definitely have a different sound. I, I don't know what kind of sound they used for the piranhas in the first one. I don't know.
and then the
It's wild.
remake they just sound like tearing people
Hmm.
apart. you
That's
know
how they're supposed to sound.
yeah, so kudos remake, you got 1 point right. You got the you got the sound right.
Hmm.
um Also, I feel like the kills are different in the remake, they go for bigger and bolder kills. There's also a variety of kills too. It's not just the piranhas getting to eat the people. There's circumstantial kills, if you will, like people get
Hmm.
caught in things, people get shot. you know
Hmm.
um and that's a major difference. And it's just that overall the two movies are very different. This something I can commend about this movie. This is a actual remake of Piranha. It's not the same thing over again, which I'm actually glad it's not the same thing again, because on paper I really like the direction that the remake takes it to, where it's like the spring break vibe on paper. The execution is rather horrible. And I don't know why they felt the need to have it be like, oh yeah, Jerry O'Connell's like making this porno underwater, and we got to focus on that for 45 minutes. And then when we finally get to the piranhas, it's one of those like, oh yeah, here's the thing I paid to see. Oh, I
Hmm.
don't know. Maybe you saw the trailer and saw all the boobies and the cheeks, and we're like, oh, let me get my 3D glasses on.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
know,
One ticket, please.
thank God for A24. Thank you so
Oh
much for
man.
making this shit go away. Um, I'm pretty sure that's all the differences. Moving on to which one we think the definitive version is. Um, this one is tricky for me, because like on a quality level, it's obvious which one I would prefer. But like I gave them both the same score for different reasons. Like the the first Piranha, I gave it a 3 because like I just thought it was okay. The remake, I gave it a 3 because I was like, yeah, it's like so bad it's good. It's garbage. So it's kind of like which one I would watch. And
I
I,
already
I
know your answer,
I
bro.
don't know. I don't know how much, like what it's gonna say, but I think I'm gonna say the remake, just
Okay.
because like it's more fun, but for
Yeah.
all the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like I do like the original, and maybe I'll go back to it. I don't know. The summer's barely started. Maybe I'll go back to it before the summer ends.
Mm.
But I think I would watch the remake just because it's like, oh, it's so bad, but like there are fun things about it. Like I want to go back to that movie just to watch the rave scene again. Like that
Hmm.
scene was genuinely fire to me. So I guess I'm going with the remake. I don't know.
Okay.
I do acknowledge
Uh,
it's not very good.
the thing about that is I'm not mad at that because when I'm watching the remake, I never felt bored. Like I never felt bored watching the
Yeah.
remake. It's like it's in your face, literally, and it's just like it kind of pumps the brake or pumps the gas like throughout the entire movie. Like it's kind of it's high energy and it's bright and like that. The original, it does like the pacing. Like I said, it's here and there. But I will have to go with the original with the definitive version. I There's just so many things about that remake that I just kind of offends me. But it's just like I don't know. I can say that it's semi enjoyable when piranhas are getting people. But yeah, the definitive version, the original for me.
All right. That is going to do it for this episode of Originals versus Remakes. If you guys enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the bell for all notifications for future videos and Nerd Talk live streams. Also, follow our Instagram. The link is down below. Our next OVR will be arriving next month, in the month of August, on my birthday, for one of my favorite Disney movies of all time, 101 Dalmatians. We decided for our birthdays, we get to pick the OVR that we get to do to drop it on our birthdays. I have 101 Dalmatians, and AJ has one that you will find out what it is in November. So I'm very excited about that. So if you guys are looking forward to that, once again, subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. And we will see you on the next episode of OVR, everybody.